I'll introduce Walter Alvarez again to you. He wanted to say a few words before lunch.
En primer lugar, quiero agradecer a las autoridades por haberme invitado. Aquí bien, pues,
First of all,
hace
thank you
35
for the
años nos ha ayudado a
invitation.
despenalizar la ciencia médica Kallawaya, ¿no? Y ahora estamos con Evo, estamos mucho mejor.
Now
Nos reconoce inclusive, vamos a
we have a
crear
president, Evo,
universidad comunitaria.
who is really promoting the indigenous culture. We're even going to have a university that will teach traditional medicine, studying animals, the land, the plants. Of course, the plants. With plants, we can heal.
De esta cultura hay mucho que hablar.
We have a
Puedo
lot
estar
to say
hablando
about this
como hablo en
culture.
Bolivia, algunas universidades. Pues se puede hablar 5 años, 4 años.
We could actually talk for 4 or 5 years about this
Toda una forma de vida.
because it's a culture, it's a way of life,
Entonces, en primer lugar,
the Inca. So first of all, I would like to introduce myself.
médico académico,
I am doctor, I'm a
aprendí lo que es la
gynecologist and a surgeon. First of all, I learned the Incas medicine of the Kallawayas.
doy clases, he dado clases en Cuba,
I've taught in Cuba, in Colombia, Chile, Bolivia,
hablo de las dos medicinas.
and I'm teaching both types of medicine.
Pueden complementar.
Both medicines can actually complement each other because the Kallawaya medicine of the Guayusuyo is more preventive than healing. Therefore, there was no death in the Kallawaya culture. When a person is alive, that person needs to know how to prevent disease through the right nutrition. We have cancer in our society because of eating junk food and too much sugar. We need to know our body. We have an increase in diabetes throughout the world because of this junk food, soda, sweets, all sorts of sugars. So we have to be very careful. I'm Kallawaya. My origin is Kallawaya. My ancestors were probably the Incas. That's why I speak the secret language of the Incas. And I also speak Quechua. Capajñan. Capaj literally means rich, and ñan means trail or road. So it could be translated as the great road of the Incas or the road of the good living. Coya comes from the Aymara language. It means medicine. So it's the region, the country of the medicine. And Coyahuayo has has been adjusted, and it means the country of the doctors, the country of the medicine. And that is what I received from my grandparents, great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents. For example, at some point there were doctors that could not heal malaria. In Aymara Quechua, we call it chuk-chuk, but with a tea made with 2 different plants of the Kallawaya region, we heal malaria. And not only malaria, also other diseases. In France, in Peru, there are books written about this, there's literature about this. Therefore, we have healed both in terms of mental health and physical health. Our minds are very powerful, and we need to take care of our mind too. The psychological part of health is very important for my culture. My presentation is going to be very brief but beautiful. My colleagues have talked a lot about the origin of the Incas. But what has not been said is that it comes from a lake that is part of Peru, Bolivia, the Titicaca Lake. The women had the moon islands, they're still there. The moon, the sun were very present, it's documented, and those are the origin of the Incas. Also, Ohuanaco, a town that is located there, is where the largest ruins are compared to the Great Wall of China or the pyramids. Then we have the largest ruins in Tiwanaku. That's where the Quechuas lived. There were fights between the different peoples living there. But from Cusco, they built the Great Road. They improved the roads that were already in place. But some Incas preferred some towns over others. Therefore, some routes changed and were improved. In my community, Incas grew medicinal plants. They had music therapy because music is also science. For example, whoever dances without taking alcohol should not feel any pain. You can test it. If you dance, everything moves. So it's good for your joints. You have to say goodbye to heart attacks. You move all your joints, and that's all good for your mind. It gives you mental health too. It's part of our culture. When we talk of the Collasuyo, the country of doctors of medicine, and in Bolivia, we have Collasuyo. We have all the different climates from ocean type of climates to the highlands. And there's plants, medicinal plants and foods that are important for the Incas that should be known. And in the valley, there is food and also plants that are very important, as well as cattle. Many of them are medicinal plants or animals. You need to know the spirit of the animals, their energy. I'm a doctor, mainstream medicine as well as indigenous medicine. In the past, we couldn't study traditional medicine, but now we have more than 600 professionals and teachers. So in the past, if you were indigenous, you had to change your language, your last name, your god. But that was in the past. Right now, we're much better, thanks to Evo. But obviously, the government can make mistakes too. Obviously, if you don't do anything, you won't make any mistakes. If you do things, you'll make mistakes, but we are better off now. I could talk about this for a long time. For example, this color, red, it's from my people. You can see a drawing there, Kallawaya, carrying the Inca, and each town has a different color, meaning something different. So from the Kallawaya has to be translated to other languages. So I could talk a lot about this culture. I've talked about it in Chile, Colombia, Cuba, Bolivia. We exchange information. In Bolivia, there are 40 nations with a different language, different culture. The 40 nations have different traditions. There are different ways of preventing disease, of healing. But we had chasquis, through the chasquis that carried corn from the highlands and certain plants. They could feed themselves. They had to know the plants of the warmer areas as well as the highlands. sometimes they would just see a bird feed itself, and then they would eat the same thing. They would try that same food because they say, well, they would think, if the bird can eat it, I can eat it. If it doesn't hurt the bird, I'm like a bird. It shouldn't hurt me either. Then we had to fight over oil with the British. The British wanted to control the oil. But in Bolivia, we have Europeans, mestizos, indigenous. The Kallawanis were doctors as well as soldiers. They knew the plants, they knew what to eat, they knew where to find water, they knew how to observe the animals, to learn from them. Therefore, all this is a science that they knew. For example, on this road, there were tambus. Tambus are storage facilities to make an offering. So from the valley, and from the lower lands, they had to go to the valley, or from the higher lands, they had to go to the valley to eat. That's why they had the tambus there. If someone was sick, there were medicinal plants in these tambus. Products were sold from this area. So also it was in this tambu where people learned about this. They would tell them, you can use this plant to heal, or this food or that other food. The Kallawaya was very well respected. It was loved. The Chaskis were going from one town to another town on foot. There were no planes, right? They were in good shape physically. They could walk from La Paz to Central America or the Panama Canal. And that is thanks to their knowledge, to science, to their nutrition. Before the Incas, Kallawayas walked on these roads. And then with the Incas, they improved the road. Right now, through these roads, you can get from Ayahuasca to La Paz in 10 hours. Before, it would take 10 days. I could talk a lot about this. We could talk for days. We could talk about how to prevent high blood pressure. When you have high blood pressure, no salt, no coffee, no meat, and only exercise and some plants as ascor and rheumatoid, you can prevent high blood pressure. Diabetes that right now is spreading all over the world, if you avoid sweets or sugar, you can avoid diabetes, but we are used to eating junk now. That's why we suffer from diabetes. There is an anthropologist, Luis Giraud, that studied all the plants. All the plants were classified, all the animals, because all of them can be used to help prevent disease. Now we're sick because we want to. If we knew food and if we ate as our grandparents, we would not be sick. Thank you very much, brothers and sisters. Thank you very much for having invited me to this event. I could spend hours and hours talking about this culture, this science, this road of the Capagnan. Thank you very much.
One hates to stop an elder, obviously. It's the harshest part of this job. But it was wonderful. I'd love to listen to him for several days. Well,